Hello, dear viewers and listeners. We're all gathered here today at the death of our club. A moment's silence. As for you, Carl, it's a Yankee candle. Carl feels me. Carl knows where I'm coming from. Right, with me tonight, the most important person is our new person. It's French. All right, mate. You're very, very good, and you have lovely hair. I was describing you to my daughter's mother today, and I said you got wonderful hair. If I had hair, I'd have hair just like yours.
Thanks, Unai. I'm honoured to be here, man. Long time listening to the show, and yeah, great to be here and chat with you, lads. Wish the occasion was a bit better. We booked it in before I knew the result, but there you go.
You were the first name down on this podcast, and then I've had to fill it up with trollops. Well, one trollop and Femi. All right, Femi, how you doing?
How you doing, guys? Good to be on the show. It's going to be a fun one.
You know, when Josh first started doing podcasts with us, he was doing it from his basement dungeon where he wasn't allowed out of. Are you in his dungeon? Just blink or wave and Morse code with your eyes. Are you okay?
I'm good.
He's good, everybody. He's good. Don't worry. And finally, and least of all, it's Dark Josh, who's just had a poo. He's washed his hands, and he's already blown his load of his 2 best points before the show. So thank you very much, Josh. Good night.
Thank you, Danny. It was a pleasure to be on this evening. And I can say that Femi definitely isn't in my dungeon unless they upgraded all the lighting after I left.
You do look like a 12-year-old boy with your camera so high up, but there again, you're trying to get in... that's Righty and Ian. Those pictures...
It's Righty and Ian. It's Righty and
Looks
Ian.
like Righty and Lacazette.
It's Righty and Emery.
Yes. I don't like those art that people do where there's no faces on them. It gives me the willies. So if you do art, put faces on them, please. Because otherwise I won't buy them.
If you do art, don't do faces on them because I hate portrait art with a passion.
Oh, get you.
I know. I've got an art point on this as well. So, next, my shout out will be Fifey at the end. That's how highbrow this is getting.
See Fifey complaining that his ceilings are too tall. You can tell he's loaded because the house has got the ceilings about 30 foot tall.
I know, right? He's had to, the butler's had to get a new feather duster.
Disgraceful. Goes round on a golden tricycle. Where did that come from? That sounded like it. Anyway, say hello to the people in the chat. There is Tom Douglas. There is Matt Roberts. There's Josh. There's Michael in Sweden. Thank you very much, Michael, for your Twitch Prime sub that you gave us the other day. I don't know if you were there when we did it.
Oh, Danny,
yes?
Where's my thanks? I Twitch Prime something. Yeah, I think so. I clicked all the buttons.
Go and have a look.
Yeah.
No, the only one we've had was Nishan did it, and we've had Bryce Music and Nazir 1994. They're the only ones that have recently done it. Oh, and Jersey
Did it
Fame.
Did it at the weekend. Livid. I'm going to go to speak to Jeff Bezos.
What username did you use?
Oh, fuck knows.
So you're making it up. You're full of shingles.
Full of shit.
Get on with it. Right, Julian Salmondo is our Venezuelan correspondent. Is everything all right in South America? Yes, he says it's fine. Good. There's Owen. I nearly said it right the other day. Owen. That's how you say it. There's formerly Noza. One day I hope the real Noza turns up, and then they have a talk about why one of them is formally and one of them is not formally. Chronicles of it. Oh, it's Harry. I was watching your podcast earlier, Harry, with your internet being a twat. My internet's been a twat as well. It keeps dropping down from 60 to 30 and then down to 5. So, yeah, good show. Go to Harry's channel. He just did. That's where I've got all my information from Pepe from Harry. So thanks for that. I've stolen most of it. It urged me to go and get Pepe stats because you gave it as one big bundle, Harry. I broke it down. Doesn't look so good when you pick the teams he scored against. Anyway, cheers, Harry. Owen again says, French told me he bought a Wenger audiobook. Why are you pretending you read, bruh?
I didn't buy it. I got the free trial. Get it right.
Oh, yes. There you go. Femster's there. Hi, Femster.
Hey.
Good.
Just giving the people some love in the chat.
Thunder gives you some love back.
The Wenger audiobook was the best way to get it using a free trial as well, because Wenger himself would have bought it that way as well.
Yes, he would have given it a free trial and then sold it to Real Madrid for 30 million quid about a month later. That would have been wonderful. Russ Morgan is there, and Harry says, thanks, mate. Enjoy, lads. Yes, good show. Right, first thing we're going to talk about, we're going to come to you, Josh, because while it's still fresh in your brain. Oh, actually, you go Josh and then Femi and then French. Just talk about the Villa game and what your thoughts about it were, because I know Femi isn't happy.
Well, yeah, no, I was fortunate enough to not watch it live and not have to deposit £15 down. Was it Greg Clark's pants? I don't know who's pants.
Owen did. Owen paid money for it. The poor boy.
As I've worked out from the Tuesday Clubs podcast earlier, that we have only lost to Midlands clubs under PPV. It's a good thing it's scrapped before we play Wolves. But otherwise, yeah, from the game, it seemed like the same problems we've had from the last couple of weeks have finally hit us in the arse. That a team that is decent and can counter-attack well against a high line did exactly that. You know, they did it 7 times against Liverpool. They did it 3 times against us. Well, 4 times if, John McGinn was... I'd say he's unlucky at the beginning for that goal to be given as offside, purely because of the fact it doesn't matter how many people were in front of Leno, he wasn't getting there anyway, and neither was Martinez if he was our goalkeeper. I thought it was just a great strike from him. But it's the same thing that we struggle to create chances. And Femi, I don't know if you feel this as well. Do you think Arteta's almost overcoached the players, that they're not using that instinct that made them so great?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I really thought about, because I started thinking about that game in terms of comparing it to the Emery era, because I don't think I've seen anything as bad since the last days of Emery, let's call it. Maybe the Man City game under Freddie, maybe, but the last days of Emery was very, very similar to that. And then I just thought, why was it that Emery was constantly on the touchline just shouting instructions, and Arteta's pretty much exactly the same? Is there something in the makeup of this team that the coaches feel that they need to be constantly talking to them, harassing them, telling them where to be? Emery was, you remember, we used to make jokes about Emery pointing to every single individual, go there, stand there, and Arteta's pretty much doing the same thing. So there must be something in the makeup of the team that they see that they need to overcoach them, let's say.
Yeah, I think we've seen it from Willian's passing stats. I saw that doing the round post-game, where every single one of his passes, it's just back to the fullback or to someone outside the area, not making a penetrating pass, which you can kind of look at from 2 sides. You either blame Willian because he's not playing that pass, or you look and go, well, is he not playing that pass because there's no options in there? And French, run with that kind of point on, what do you see as the problem with our lack of creativity? Because I don't think it's personnel, personally.
I see what you mean. I don't think it's a question of certainly not a player within the team. I don't think there's any individuals we could put in to fix that kind of issue. Definitely with Willian, he got a lot of stick for that passing map and it looked horrendous, but he was often the furthest player forward. So it's a question of, where was he going to go? I think for me, it was clear that when he first came in, the remit was fixing our defense. Talk about the manager. And he's done that in terms of structure, and then in summer in terms of personnel, bringing a couple of players in, and I think losing 3-0. I mean, it wasn't because we were horrendously defensively, but it's mainly because we were horrendously going forward. I feel the fact that we didn't score a single goal in that game, it just kind of we weren't ever really particularly threatening, and that makes it a lot easier for the other team to come and attack us. I feel. I think it's pretty clear, and I think he must know that now this is the area we need to focus on. We were obviously, until the last game, the best defensive team in the league, and I think that's pretty impressive in and of itself. But it's quite clear that it's come at the expense of our progress going forward. We aren't able to score goals, and we saw it a bit under Emery, so we can't say it's just an Arteta problem. I do think that Femi raises a good point with regards to this set of players. It looked like an Emery game in that against Villa, having to cover all those wide spaces and just players unable to deal with that. And I wonder if it's something about the players themselves are just not able to. They have to be so rigid and so perfect defensively and have that perfect goal come together for us to be able to score, and then just kind of hold on to it. That we seem to be able to do both. I don't know if it's a question of athleticism, sort of types of players that we're missing, rather than it just being one or two. But yeah, certainly that's the next issue for the coach to focus on, for the manager to look at.
Do you think it just could be a matter of time? Because we've got... Oh, hello, Dora. I'm busy, dear. We've got our new centre-back. We've got a new... I don't suppose you can... Just magnificent midfielder, because he's not a defensive midfielder. He's not a centre midfielder. He's every midfielder. So we've got those two settling in. And plus we've got players that are having their difficult second season after Pepe's difficult first season, Josh. So... But it's going to have to take a while, isn't it? These people aren't going to all step in and have magnificent games. We're going to win every single game for the rest of the season and go invincible. That's not going to happen. And especially the state of the league at the moment. People need to remember that Man United are near the bottom and they've spent £500 million on players. Man City only above us because of our goal difference got worse after the loss. So they went above us in the league to the heights of 10th place. Wolves and Sheffield United, two of the best teams from last season, they're down the bottom of the league. And you've got Southampton and Everton top of the league. And then Everton, after being top of the league for the first, month, they've now lost 3 in a row. But our Arsenal fans that need to have a look at that and realise this whole COVID, this whole everything, the entire world is in a mess, and just go, at least we've got decent players and we'll come through this a better team, won't we?
Yeah, I think we will. And I think my favourite part of the post-game was the fact that Arteta came forward and said this was a problem that he needs to look at over the international break, that he needs to reassess his system, because there is a fundamental problem with how we try and build attacks. It just doesn't work properly. We're not doing it with enough speed. We're not doing it with enough penetration. And, even when we'll go through the Pepe stats, you'll show how well Pepe plays in the games he's picked for, but you'll mention the opposition that he strives against, and it's an opposition that isn't necessarily as well drilled or of the same quality level. So it shows that when it does click, it's more about individual brilliance rather than the team scoring great goals. I think this thing's doing the rounds now of look at the football we were playing in Arsene's last season. I mean, it's just coincidental that 98% of that video is showing all our home games. None of the away games where we were shit, and that was the reason why he was sacked, because he was awful away from home in his final season. But those kind of passing moves, we haven't really seen anything like that under Arteta in any kind of Wenger ball kind of way. Now, I'm not saying he wants to replicate that exact style, but we've got that kind of mentality in the squad, and we've got the players that can do that. The only real time we've split teams apart is actually kind of from a little dinked ball by Tierney over the top, and Aubameyang's run onto it. That ball's been cut out now. Aubameyang can't get into games. He's not clever enough as a winger to make more diverse runs, because the only thing he wants to do really is cut inside and score. So he's not going to go on the outside of a player. And if he does, he hasn't got the skill or ability to then either get past that guy, or then we probably don't have any support for him in the box, which is the issue Willian's seeing on the other side, that Lacazette's the only guy in the box. And the fact that he's got 3 goals from 9 shots this season is probably a good, that's a pretty good conversion rate. I know he's missed big chances, but that's because we're only making 1 or 2 chances a game. This isn't we're having 12, 14 chances like we used to. We're not even getting into decent single figure numbers for these in games against sides we should be creating a lot against and having a lot of shots. We're almost trying to go with the cliche, walk it in. But we're not even
2 shots on target against Villa, and they had 6.
Exactly. And their shots on target, I mean, they're not going to count the offside for John McGinn as well. So that was clearly a shot on target.
We had a shot on target. I can't remember we had a shot on target. I remember Emery didn't. He could have just not turned up that day.
One came from Party, and the other one came from Pepe.
Oh yeah, I remember the Party one.
Pepe only played the last 25 minutes.
Yeah.
So a front 3 of Auba, Laca, Willian, not a single shot between them.
Yeah, that's that is. And the worst thing is, you could see something I hadn't seen on Aubameyang's face in his whole time at Arsenal is that that Van Persie look on his face of what am I doing here? Kind of look that we've seen it on star players before at Arsenal, haven't we? Like Alexis type of what am I doing here? Why I don't even want to be here. But my thing is like, okay, so if you sort of, is it because like you're saying, everyone's at home right now, so everyone's watching football at home. If I'll be honest with you, if I was there wouldn't have been by 75 minutes. Emirates would have been empty, to be honest, and there would have been boos at halftime, boos when balls were played backwards. So that's kind of giving them a sort of they don't actually know what the fans are feeling. So my thing is, if we were playing every game that we've lost, say we lost 4 games this season, if it wasn't like 1-0s and nils, but on our score sheet, say we were Harlem Globetrotters and losing 4-3s, playing exciting football, how do you think that would be going down? So we've lost the same 4 games, but 4-3, for example, rather than 3-0s and 1-0s.
Sounds like Emery's first 3 games. Because he had that sort of thing going on where he said himself, didn't he? He'd rather win a game 6-5 or something crazy like that. To be honest, we enjoyed it at the time. You know, we got our Arsenal back and all that, but there were a lot of people who did point out the kind of worrying fact that we were conceding so many shots on goal. So it's kind of, and this is where I feel it's tough for Arteta, because he clearly did come in and address what we all knew the issue was in terms of conceding crazy shots. But yeah, to answer your question, I think it reminds me of kind of Unai's first days, and the fans would have liked it, I think, but it probably wouldn't have been sustainable either.
Friends, did you see the heat map from Willian and all his? No, not the heat map, the passing map.
Yeah, I did.
Tell people about that. That is just unreal.
Well, yeah, we touched on it briefly. I don't know. There were two forward out of I don't know quite how many passes he made altogether, but there were about 2 or 3 going forward in the game. And but to mitigate that, as Josh and I mentioned, he was often the furthest player forward. I can't remember what the exact heat map average for him was, but I think Lacazette's was closer to Partey's than it was to Williams. And so, you know, there's only so much you can. You know, I don't want to defend Willian because he was terrible that game, and I don't honestly think him and Lacazette can play in the front 3 together. But you can't completely kill him for that, because structurally there is a clear issue in terms of us being able to build up play and actually having players ahead of him. You know, someone like a Joe Willock maybe running past Lacazette, has someone in midfield who has that that about them to get into the box and provide another option is something we just clearly lack.
True. Fem, I made a point on the live show, which you said you wish you'd have been on because you'd have, or you said good job you weren't on, you were so angry. At one point, Saka was playing kind of left, he was in the left back position. He came running across the midfield, and then he did a pass to, I think it was Holding, and then he carried on his run across the midfield onto the right flank and looked like he was going to make a run down the wing, and Holding gave the ball to, it was another defender or the goalkeeper. And at that point you thought, yeah, that kind of sums up our game, didn't it?
Yeah, it is literally just, it's so weird. Like, I mean, apart from everyone having an off day on that day, that was a particularly bad. I mean, even when Saka's playing badly, you know it's an off day. But you know, when you see, I've got this image of Kieran Tierney getting the ball and just doing this and saying, where am I going to go? Or Bellerin getting the ball and spinning around and turning to play backwards. And our 2 midfielders were just overwhelmed. They were just swarmed by, it looked like Villa had like 10 midfielders at one point. You know, as soon as a midfielder got the ball, they either gave it away or they were just being absolutely overran. I'm sure we'll come on to how to fix it further, because I've got some ideas on that. But
talk about that now then. Avon says 28 passes, 25 backward. I think he's on about the Willian. I was busy tweeting, so I'd only just seen that. Cheers, Avon.
I think the trick that Emery and Arteta are missing, this team is literally built to play not even 4-3-3, because Emery tried 4-3-3 and we got absolutely taken apart in every game that he played 4-3-3. This team is built to play 4-2-3-1, and I'm worried that the reason why we're not playing 4-2-3-1 is because of the Mesut Ozil hole in the they don't want to put someone else in that number 10 role for it not to be Ozil, basically, because every department is just built to play that system, it would get so much more out of so many players, because then you don't have to have your number 9 dropping in so deep and having to do so much, defensive work. You could have a number 9 that sits forward, and your number 10 could do that sort of helping out in the 3. This is all these little things that you could change, and I'm sure. I mean, I'm not a manager, but it would be so much easier just to get more players in the middle and around the forward line.
True. French, what did you? Oh, Josh, have you had a say on this? Because those two have been making good points. You've just been sitting there like a naughty boy.
Yeah, no, I've just been messing around with statistics.
Go on then.
If anyone wants a fun, well, here's a little question for you, Danny. Who has had more shots this season, Lacazette or Aubameyang?
I thought you were going to say someone or Leno.
No.
The fewest shots.
Yes.
Well, I'd say logically it's going to be Aubameyang, because I don't think he's been able to do anything, because every time he plays, they just pile loads of damn people on him, so he can't play his game. Is that right?
Well, no.
I've seen this one.
It's a trick question. They've both got 9 shots in the league this season. But yeah, I've stitched you up like Kipper. Yeah, but Aubameyang's only got 2 goals to Lacazette's 3. So. Yeah,
but then you look at Lacazette, beginning of the season, 3 goals in 3 Premier League starts, and then Arteta drops him. And Lacazette's going to be thinking, what? What's that? What have you done that for? What are you playing at? I'm the only one scoring goals, and you've dropped me, and you've played Eddie, and Eddie couldn't score in a brothel. Bless him. I do love Eddie, but Eddie's not ready yet.
I think he's old enough to score in a brothel. I think that's his problem.
That could well be the problem. Yeah, Eddie needs
you're saying that. I mean, someone pointed out to me the other day that Eddie's only 18 months younger than Marcus Rashford. So it's not exactly that young when we think about it.
I mean, when you look at, I know it was only a 10-minute cameo against Dundalk, but what we saw from Bellerin in that 10-minute spell, it's too over the top and irrational to say that he did more than Eddie's ever done in his Arsenal career in those 10 minutes. But it just felt like what he did off the ball, there was so much more to his game, and it's what we need. And it's why I cried out for Eddie to be a man and stay at Leeds and not come back to Arsenal crying. Said, oh, the Argentinian man wouldn't play me. Oh, Patrick Bamford's getting more time on the pitch than me. Fucking twat. And I'm going to go back to Arsenal. Try my hand there.
Is that verbatim what he said?
That is more or less, I believe, live footage from London Colney when he came back with his tail between his legs, because the bad man Bielsa wouldn't give him game time over Patrick Bamford, who has got 7 goals this season. Who would have seen that coming? I mean, he's outscored our entire forward line in the Premier League. A guy that couldn't score in a brothel when he played for Palace in the league. So I think that's one of the big things, is we've got this weird flux where Lacazette has shown he's not necessarily the right striker for us, but the fall off in quality for someone that could do that job for us is so huge. Lacazette is our best option. We might not like it, but he is our best option at centre forward. Should we look to bring Aubameyang in? Yeah, but we've shown that we can't create properly at all in this system. So I think this is where we might see Arteta kind of rip up what he was trying to do and try and get this system to be a lot more fluid, because I think that's one of the bigger problems, is we're just far too slow progressing the ball from midfield. We do have players that can make runs that dribble through midfield. Thomas Partey's shown he can do it. We even saw El Neni doing it against Man United. Ceballos, again, wonderful dribbler when the ball's at his feet. But he ends up doing a million pirouettes because there's no one running up with him for him to play a forward pass to, that he's got to turn 180 degrees, because that's where all the support is, behind him. We need to work on getting runners in place and having this forward line. And I don't think Arteta's really worked out how to build that attack properly, which is something that surprises me when he was given all the praises for the work he was doing with Raheem Sterling. I wouldn't necessarily go the job he did with Leroy Sané, because Sané was a really creative, raw winger, And the reason Pep wouldn't play him was because he was too inconsistent and a bit too, he wouldn't conform to the system all the time. He'd do what he wants because he's good enough to do exactly that. And you see that at Bayern now, that when he's been given that freedom, he will just run teams ragged. But I think we need to see something from there, and I wouldn't put the kind of pressure people are putting on Martinelli. I mean, that's just, there's too much kind of pressure on that kid to come back and think he's going to be the saviour. Again, I think the players we've got in those kind of starting 11s, it's 1 or 2 changes out from there of teams we've already got available that will bring us the attacking line that we need.
You do like to leave a big gap between your next sentence, don't you? I always take a deep breath, ready to say thank you to Nishan, who's here, caught for a live show. It is 7:30 a.m. I don't know where he is. I think that he could possibly be in Norwich. I'm not sure. It was the last person to give us his Prime subscription on Twitch. It costs you nothing. You get $2.50 that if you don't give us to us or give it away to any of your other favourite Twitch streamers, it just goes back in Jeff Bezos' pants. French, have you seen Balogun play? Because the times I've seen him play, comparing Balogun and Eddie is like comparing an Alan Smith v an Ian Wright. I'd like to see them both play because they've both been magnificent for the under 18, under 21, under 23s. What's your thoughts on what we could possibly do with what we got?
Yeah, well, I mean, I saw him play for, 10 minutes against Dundalk, and I instantly changed my handle on Twitter to follow Win Baller So, I'm part of the Balogun hive. We're spreading the Balogun propaganda. It's the Balogun agenda. He's the next best thing. I loved what I saw, basically. It was obviously a very short cameo, and it was funny. It was almost like, Nelson, some of our players didn't recognize what it looked like when our centre forward made like good runs and had good movement because they didn't want to give him the ball. And I was really frustrated. But it's probably a bit of, not he's a new player and just calm down a little bit. I don't know why Nelson didn't release him a couple of times. But he looks good. He looks impressive. But the point about, I guess, Arteta is that he doesn't seem to put a lot of trust at the moment in some of our younger players. When he first came in, we saw players like Joe Willock. Obviously, Saka doesn't really count, but a lot of players get more time. Maitland-Niles as well. And now it feels like he's kind of going back to experience. You saw it a bit at the end of the FA Cup run as well. He was playing a much more senior team in that final game as compared to some of the league teams he was starting earlier on. And one point that I'm kind of curious with, Josh mentioned Martinelli. And Arsenal fans think he's a saviour. We don't know that Arteta thinks that because he didn't see a lot of time under Arteta at the end of last season. And I think a lot of people were curious if there was an injury or something, if that was, obviously an injury came later on, but if that was maybe why, if he just saw he got tired. But it was odd to me that he came in when Aubameyang had that red card, scored, 2 or 3 goals in 3 or 4 games, and then we didn't see him again for the rest of the season. And so I wonder if there's something with our new manager. He's only been a manager for about 9-10 months or whatever, or a year now, and maybe he's been. Well, I think we all know he's probably been a bit too conservative in some areas, and he needs to maybe let loose in some areas. Maybe he doesn't trust some of the players enough, but it seems like he's being conservative in the sort of age groups he's choosing to stick with, and bringing in Willian, giving Aubameyang a new contract. Thomas Partey, 27 years old. There's a kind of profile there that you're seeing. Obviously, we did get a couple of younger players in as well, but yeah, I just wonder if that's something that we need to to pay attention to, and hopefully that Arteta will kind of change, maybe giving some of these younger players a bit more of a chance. I mean, I was surprised to see that Willock didn't even make the bench against Bellerin when we needed a goal, and none of our midfielders looked like they were going to help out in the box. You kind of look back on that in hindsight, and you wonder, yeah.
I was literally thinking exactly what you're saying about Martinelli. Every time someone talks about Martinelli, I just remember the last 3 games, I think, before he got injured. He didn't even come on the pitch, let alone start a game. And I remember everyone saying, "Oh, why is he not playing him? Why is it?" And I just thought, there's some. If you think about, okay, let's look at Pep and the treatment of Phil Foden, for example. Think about until this season, what was everyone's question? Always, the media were always like, "Where's Phil Foden? Why is he not playing? Why is he not playing?" It's the same thing that we're seeing with all our young players, which is he didn't go out on loan, and Pep treated him a certain way. Even now, he's in and out, but he's getting more minutes now. But it's literally the way that Arteta is treating all of our young players. And I think there's something that we've missed a trick with some of these guys, as in we saw how talented they were. And the difference between us and what Chelsea did was Chelsea had these Reece Jameses and what's his name? The one that just never gets dropped by England or Chelsea. What's his name?
Mason Mount.
Mason Mount. They saw how
Portsmouth's finest Mason Mount.
They saw how talented they were. They had a belief in them. And they sent them somewhere with the direct and Tammy Abraham as well of playing minutes. We didn't send. So now Reece Nelson went out on loan, for example. He got some minutes. Sometimes he didn't play. Sometimes he did play. Eddie, like Josh was saying, he did like a half season loan. He quit on that. Who else we got? Martinelli's come straight from Brazilian football. He's quite young, quite raw. And then you've got Willock as well. He hasn't played a lot of football. If you think about it, our young players haven't played a lot of football compared to the Chelsea players. So when Chelsea were dropping these 19, 20-year-olds in, they've already played for a full season in the Championship, and we just need to I don't know what it is. Maybe he just doesn't feel that they have enough experience, but it's all really strange situations, because then you've got things like when Arteta first came in, until the Man City and Brighton game in the summer, we played 4 at the back every single game. So then we switched to 3 at the back, and it looks like we're stubborn so much now that it's all these weird things. And I just really hope that this 2 weeks just gives him a chance to just reflect on everything, to be honest.
Sorry, I saw someone call out my French credentials there in the chat, asking if I was actually French. Oui, je suis actuellement français. Désolé, c'est pas ma faute.
He said, "My donkey is sick. Where is the swimming pool?" I actually got sent out of French class in 1982 when Miss Yato said, "What is la piscine?" I said, "The toilet." I was asked to leave, and then she gave me, you used to have to write lines, and I had to do 2 sides of A4 on the contents of the inside of a ping pong ball. Miss Yato was a legend. Horrible woman. Drove a Jeep Cherokee, actually, left-hand drive. There you go. Write that down, because I'll forget it soon. Josh, you asked me for some stats on Mr. Martinelli. I have stuffed all those stats down your pants. Do you like the stats that I've given you? I think I've put nine games as left wing. I think one of them he came on, those 9 games he came on and played up front for a quarter of an hour.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that I don't know. Yeah, because I get the same feeling as the other guys, that I don't feel like Martinelli played an awful lot under Arteta. But I think that's because he played all before lockdown. And then, obviously, no one remembers what happened in March.
Well, if you want it, he played in the Europa League. He 58 minutes and 15 minutes against Olympiacos. And then he came back from hamstring injury. And in the league, he played 20 minutes against Palace. And then he played the full 90 minutes against Sheffield United, scored, Chelsea scored, and right wing Burnley 0-0. And then he played the 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds of the FA Cup, 23 minutes against Leeds, 90 minutes against Bournemouth with 1 assist, and 90 minutes against Portsmouth and with nothing, and played left wing in all of those.
Yeah, and then I think he got injured after that, didn't he? Because he got
injured knee injury. Yeah, it says knee injury. I don't know what game that was in.
I think it was in training that he got injured.
It was in training, yeah.
All the last games he all played 90 minutes of all of them, I think.
Yeah.
He's not going to come back and suddenly fix all of our problems, is he?
No, but I also don't think he's necessarily as out of favour as some of us might perceive him to be.
Yeah, I think for me the questions were at the time. I saw there was a few substitute appearances. I was wondering how many starts he got out of those 9, if you could see. But the reason I think a lot of people were quite curious is because when Aubameyang went away and had that red card and couldn't play for 3 games or whatever it was, he really did kind of save us. He scored quite a few goals in a short period of time. Definitely don't expect him to then be, just a nailed on starting 11 player, but for him to be not start, my impression was that he didn't start many games after those
lockdown,
to start. Yeah. So after that, I think that's where some of the questions were arising as to why he wasn't.
I think it's something I was going to come on to about why, like back to Femi's point, and why we don't see the younger players playing. I think it's because Arteta has been hammering home this kind of consistency kind of thing, and its consistency is what you tend to get with experienced players. We've seen it. I hate to bring up this particular gentleman on the podcast, but a Jose Mourinho team. The reason why he brought in all of those experienced players was because he knew he'd get at least a 6-7 out of 10 from them every single week, and then maybe have one youngster in there, some kind of creative outlet, get you all the goals, then just drop him, shut up shop for the rest of the season. That's how he'd churn out all those league wins. And I think that's what we're seeing from Arteta, especially the stuff he says about Pepe. Yeah. Especially that kind of thing, because he looks younger than he actually is in the way that he plays, how raw he is. But I think we can kind of carry that over to like a Willock. I think Willock's interview after the Mulder game, where he was like, again, he's just trying to get into the team, try and show to the manager and prove that he can play consistently well.
Yeah.
And then they can come in. And I think maybe that's what Arteta's been doing. He's been hammering to these younger players. I'm going to stick Willian in. You know what? He's going to play every week. And I know it's going to be a 6 out of 10 every week. And I know, Pepe, you can give me 7s and 8s, but you don't always give me 7s and 8s. Sometimes you turn out a 4. If you can just drop a 6 as your low level, fine. He just needs to bring that bottom performance up a bit. And then we kind of see him unleashed, which I think was what Pepe was saying in his interview as well, that if, Arteta's told him all these things about why he's not playing, and it's frustrating, and he is frustrated that he's not getting on to the Premier League side and not starting those games, but he can also see what Arteta's trying to say to him, that bring your base performance up a bit, and then you'll be in, and you can happily, have a game where you're not that great and put in a 6 out of 10 performance, and you won't get dropped. But you've got to also then produce those 8s at the same time. I
totally agree. I think you're bang on with that's his approach. And I think that's probably where some people are then, depending on how you look at football, raising another criticism, of our coach in terms of where he is in his development stage, that maybe he is, that's where people are saying maybe he is a bit too conservative with and just needs everything. Maybe he's a bit too controlling. I think that's the word. And it's something that people leveled at Guardiola as well, that he's a bit of a control freak sort of manager. I'm not necessarily convinced that's the case, but I've seen a lot of that going around in WhatsApp groups. And I think it's I hope that eventually he does just look at it and just say, right, well, we just don't have what Pepe offers. We don't have that kind of danger. And at some point that has to kind of have to sort of change it up.
You know what you're saying about 6s out of 10. The control is what's happening with the control, and the rigidness is we're getting a lot of 6 and 7 performances out of 10 from every single player. But what we're not getting is anything above 8s and 9s out of 10. So if there's actually a good performance, it stands out to us so much that we're just like, wow, that was an amazing, because every single player is performing at 6 and so just steady eddies. Yeah. I mean, a Villa fan was saying, I know a couple of Villa fans that I used to work with, they just annoy me so much. They were saying that, players like Matty Cash, like Arsenal would never buy a player like that, but he's the type of player that will give you a 4 out of 10 one week, but he might give you a 9 or 8 out of 10. I was in a group chat the other day, and I said, at one point in that match, I said I would sell the whole Emirates Stadium to get Jack Grealish because he is so good. And it just reminds me that we just need some star quality somewhere in that team, and someone's just got to break free. So a player like Pepe can give you a 8, 9 out of 10 one week, and then a 4 out of 10 another week. Even game to game, he does that. The Europa League first halves, he's been terrible, and then in the second half, look, that's the player that we like. So we do have to just let the shackles off a bit. We got players like Reece Nelson who literally cannot get a look in, and I'm like, I like Reece Nelson. A lot of people don't like him, but I'm like, I like him. He offers something different, you know. I don't see what the difference between his level and Willian's level is. That sounds really stupid, but I just don't see it personally.
That's a good point.
No, I get that, and I think the other thing on Jack Grealish and having him in the squad. Look at how many players Villa got around him. When he's on the ball, Ross Barkley is breaking a neck to make sure that he's an option to him. Ollie Watkins is flying down the middle, make sure Grealish has got an outlet to him. John McGinn, again, another player. These three players are making sure that they are available for Grealish to play a pass to them. If Grealish went into our side, would you see Lacazette making that kind of run under Arteta at the moment? Would you see Danny Ceballos making one of those runs from midfield? Kieran Tierney might make a run on the overlap. That's probably the only player. But again, I can say Matt Targett, because now I can remember who the Villa left back is also making those overlapping runs for Grealish. So he's got those options. We saw, I think it's the first goal in the first half. I'm pretty sure it comes from a Matt Targett ball across. That's where the big chances are created, because he had options. And that's the big problem we're getting at the moment is if Pepe's got the ball, where is that midfielder being directed to run, get in support of him? And you can't say, oh, we haven't got players that can do that, because we do. We've seen them do those kind of things. They're just not being directed to do it. And again, I'm not leveling complete criticism at Arteta for this, but I do believe we're in the position now where he's outside of his honeymoon period. It's coming up to he's a year in the job. We kind of work out now what his style of play is. He's spoken enough about what his philosophy is, even if we've not necessarily seen the finished product on the pitch. But we understand what he's doing, and we just need to, I think it is the time that we can start kind of pushing back and saying these kind of things and questioning what he's doing, because it's not all completely unknown for us now. But yeah, I don't know what anyone else thinks.
I totally agree. I think you make a good point in terms of who would actually be making those runs. And yeah, you're totally right. They would be making those runs if they were being coached to make those runs. But it comes back to what we were mentioning before in terms of maybe having coached some of that natural instinct and kind of initiative out of them to a degree.
Yeah, and I think if we get the options to get someone like, as we mentioned, Joe Willock, I think is the closest from that kind of Europa League team to getting in the Premier League team, especially if we stick with three in midfield, because he can kind of show that he can make those dynamic runs and still get back and defend as well. And I think that's perhaps one of the worries that Arteta's got, as he was so headstrong about making sure our defence was solved. And he's got a great assistant in Steve Round to make sure. You know, he did great work under Moyes at Everton, and that's where Arteta, worked with him. And we all know how well David Moyes could sort out a defence. He's not necessarily in the Allardyce or Pulis kind of Hall of Famers that you'd call out as great defensive coaches in the English game, but he was one of them and is one of them. And having an assistant from there, you can kind of see that. It's kind of harsh to say Arteta almost seems like a bit more of a Moyes than a Guardiola occasionally in what we see his teams do with how laid back they are. But Femi, I don't know what you kind of think about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not Arteta out, but I'm just gonna say some stuff about that. I'm not happy with him. Okay, so one of the things is your philosophy as a manager. I've heard so many people say, oh, look how Klopp was early on with Liverpool, and that's the template and all that type of stuff. The difference is Klopp had a template and a philosophy, which was that fast pressing, fast football. Even with the bad players that he had at the time, they had a certain way of playing, which is why I said they used to let in a lot of goals, but they used to score a lot of goals as well. Whereas Arteta kind of came in with one style and then he switched it 2 or 3 times, which for me is a little bit, that worries me a bit. It's like we started with the high tempo, closing down. I think remember we used to burn out, at half time most of the games, and teams, there were so many games that by 60 minutes we were totally just hanging on for dear life. And then obviously he thought, okay, and I've seen so many managers come in and try that with us. So there must be something in the makeup of this team that is not built for that type of football. So then he's thought, okay, let me try a different way. Whereas, obviously his first year of management, he hasn't maybe built in a philosophy that is permanent in his sort of management style forever. But if he's constantly changing, it gets really weird, doesn't it? That's one of my worries. It's like, what is our attacking philosophy? I just don't see any sort of just get the ball wide and cross it in. Okay, but that's what Emery's attacking philosophy was, and he was literally criticized for that. Get the ball to Kolasinac and he'll hit the first man. That was the joke on the Emery. Now it's get it to Tierney, he'll whip in a great cross. It's for someone to miss or not to be in there. But it's just a learning curve. We're growing with the manager. The team's evolving. The fans have to evolve. It's what we signed up for. So we just have to support it and try and do the best we can as fans as well as players, manager.
And I think it's same as what we were kind of saying about the players. How he's looking at experience, because he'd rather a 6 or a 7 out of 10 performance than an 8 or a 9. It's the same with our manager. He is that raw talent. He is giving us these kind of 9 out of 10 performances, Man United, but he's also throwing in these kind of, Nicolas Pepe turns up on the field, can't beat a single man and only hits, every single corner, either goes straight out of play or hits the first man, / 4 out of 10 performances we see from him a la Villa or Leicester. I'm trying to think of another one off the top of my head. I think Brighton as well. We've been generally poor in these kind of games, but that's because our manager is having these kind of instabilities. If you've got, like as you said, as a Klopp, come straight in, he's got a philosophy that he's built over 8 years of management in Germany. He knows what works. He can be the stable kind of 8 or 9 out of 10 performer every single game, and he can chop and change and take those risks in the team because he can sort out, if Jordan Henderson is ever actually a good player or not. They could choose not to bring him in, or the kind of forward line, they can kind of sort themselves out. He's got that experience, and I think that's what the worry is. Well, not worry with Arteta. I don't think any of us here are even close to Arteta out. We're just very much he is a raw manager, a bit like we've got raw players in the time. But unfortunately, for the big games, we can't switch out Arteta for like a Arsene Wenger to give us that kind of, we need you for these kind of games instead. But
Jonathan Porter makes a good point here. He says the trouble is the trouble we always have is you can only pick 11 at a time, and our best player is always the one that isn't playing. Good point. Saliba is the best centre-back ever, yet most of us, I bet, have never seen him play. I've seen him play, I think, 3 times. Looked good the whole time. Seems to be strolling around the pitch most of the time because he's that much better than everyone else. So I thought I'd go and actually dig up all of his games. So his first game, MK Dons, we beat them 4-1. He played 46 minutes. We played 3 at the back with Holding and Tierney and him. And then he played for the under-23s. And when the under-23s played and he didn't play, under-23s played Chelsea, he didn't play. And then in the League Cup, I didn't know this. Did you know he was a sub when we beat Leicester 2-0? No, nor did I. Apparently he was. And then our under-23s played Man United, and he played the full 90 minutes at the back with an 18-year-old Kirk and a 21-year-old Dins EYI. Dinzai. Then he didn't play for the under-23s against Man City. And then the under-23s played Liverpool, and he played 77 minutes. We were back to with Joel Lopez, who was a magnificent left back, or left wing back. He's only 18. And then he played tonight in the under-21s, which is with the Papa John's Pizza Cup, I think it's called, or something like that.
Papa John's trophy.
There we go. We've just got Papa John's in St Ives. So we're gonna have Papa John's next week. And so tonight he played a full 90 minutes. And do you know who his partner was at the back for the under-21s?
I do. I believe it's 25-year-old Callum Chambers.
Hey! Ding dong. And also playing for Gillingham, that their goal scorer was a bloke who Trey Coyle. There's too many Y's in that for me.
He's on loan from us, isn't he?
He certainly is. They didn't mention that. And also Willock the Elder was there. Now, I love me a little bit of Willocks. Willock the Elder, he was born in 1996. He went Arsenal, joined Man United in 2011, and then he joined Gillingham in 2019. He's not really done much there. And then
did Zach Medley play for Gillingham as well?
Tonight,
he played left back, I heard.
Yes, tonight. He's on loan there as well. We got a couple out of Gillingham.
I know we've got a couple of them there. Oh, you're back. Do you wash your hands, Femi? Unlike Josh. Hey.
It must be really weird for those for Trey Coyle and Zach Medley playing against all their.
Especially when you score.
Yeah, playing literally against their same age group that they were playing with for Arsenal. Yeah, that's weird.
And the same for Willock when he's playing against Chambers.
Yeah, they were in the. I don't know if they were there long enough.
Southampton, yeah.
But it's only really worked out for one of the Willocks. One went to Man United, one went to Benfica, and one stayed at Arsenal. And now he's magnificent. And like you lot have been talking about, I would love to see Nelson and Grealish remind me of Paul Merson a little bit, socks down, running at you. We saw, it's just the last bit on the Villa game. We saw before that goal that was ruled offside for Villa, we saw Grealish running at our players, and no one wanted to go near him because they were worried that they were going to take him down because he's so tricky. And that's what one of you said. We need someone who's just going to run at the players, full of confidence. You're going to have to stop me because I'm not stopping. You're going to have to bring me down or foul me or I'm going to get a penalty. And he's not a diver. He's just a breath of fresh air. But this shows you how broken English football is. I'm English, as I always say. I don't support England. And then I'm also, I think Sweden, that's the team I'm going to go for. And we saw in the England friendly, he played the first game, magnificent, ran that game. Next two games, didn't play. That sums up the England national team for you. Absolute scumbags. Right, next thing we're going to move on to is, I don't think we've solved anything with any of that lot, but it was an interesting talk. Just quickly, start with you, French. Does Arteta stick with that 11 for the next game, which is going to be in 2 weeks' time?
No.
Why?
No, I think this is something interesting about Arteta and something we have to bear in mind with regards to him building his philosophy. I mean, he literally, obviously, A, is learning on the job. But B, he hasn't really ever had a full pre-season in his managerial career. He's never really had a chance to just send the players out for 6 games in a row and it not matter at all and just get to see what he's got. And so, yeah, it's going to be a lot of chopping and changing, and he does seem to have an element of the different plan for every kind of game. We pressed high up against Manchester United in that first half, especially, and got quite a few chances created from that in transition, and that's where a lot of our creativity was coming from. And for us to then switch that off in the next game was just a bit odd. And in the previous games, we hadn't seen it for a little while. It sort of comes in and out. And so that suggests to me that something we have in the locker that we're using in particular games for whatever reason. But I think some things have to change. For me, one of the clear players we need to come back in, and I didn't think I'd be saying this, midway through last season, but we need to see David Luiz back in the lineup because before he came off against Leicester, he was our most creative player on the pitch. And I don't think that's that's not necessarily an insult against the team. That's what he does as a footballer. He's fantastic through balls, and he's always had quite high numbers. And so for us to replace him with Rob Holding, who I've liked, but I've always liked in single games, Holding. I like him in FA Cup finals and semi-finals and against a big team away from home, where he's up for it and he's got someone running straight at him and it works well for him. I just feel like he steps to those occasions quite well. If you put him in the starting 11 week in, week out, I think he'll let you down a few times because I don't think he is that kind of consistent Arsenal back four player, despite maybe he could be in the future, but he's definitely not that at the moment, I don't think. So for me, I think David Luiz needs to come back into that defense. I don't want to see Willian and Lacazette starting together again in the next game. I think what I want to see is Aubameyang through the middle and Saka on the left, Pepe on the right. We find a way to get it to them, with David Luiz picking it out to Saka. One of the things that we miss with having Aubameyang out on the left in terms of creativity is more threat from that left because he isn't a winger, as we know. He's not he's got a decent little chip cross on him, but he's not like a Saka. He can't sort of cut in and cut back in the same way. And so adding that, not only will we have, maybe a more potent goal scoring threat through the middle, but we also have more creativity out in that left flank. So for me, yeah, those are 3 players I'd want to see changed over at least. And I think El Neni, really good against United and has been showing fantastic signs since he's come back from loan. But that doesn't mean that he's all of a sudden changed into, a first team top 4 player. We know he's now a good squad option, which is fantastic, but I don't think he needs to be starting every game alongside Partey. I'd like to see Ceballos. I'd like to, even though he's not been great on form, test out a Maitland-Niles, having Willock on the bench or maybe even starting a game. I think, there are a few changes that need to be made.
In a word, do you think we're ever going to see Aubameyang play as the main striker?
Have to. We can't have given him a 3-year contract to stay out on the wing.
Good, Femi. What's your thoughts on all of that lot? And how can Maitland-Niles, Mainsley as Tom calls him, how can Mainsley made it to the England bloody squad and then you're dropped by Arsenal when you should be playing in that position? Because as much as Bellerin he's been at the club for years and years. I'm just never. I mean, Bellerin's had a couple of decent games lately, or decent parts in decent games, but Bellerin for me, no. Mainsley all day long for me in that position. He's just so dynamic. He's got everything. I just love watching him play. And another one who plays with his socks down. Always a sign of a good footballer for me.
That's one that I've been tweeting about, actually. I've been saying, what was the point of turning down 15, 20, 25, whatever million for a player and then sitting him on the bench? I just really don't get it at all, because, I mean, most of the summer, all I heard everyone saying was, why would you keep a goalkeeper worth 20 million on the bench? It's like just leaving money on the bench, basically. That's what everyone was saying. And then we've literally done the same thing with another player. It's not like we've got a lot of assets that people want to pay that much for anyway. So then my thing is, why would, if you was that harder and it was about money, why wouldn't you put Martinez in as your number 1 and sell Maitland-Niles if you were just going to keep him on the bench? So that's a really strange one. If we go back to a proper back, a proper back 4, do you see Maitland-Niles playing proper right back or proper left back? I think it would be even more difficult for him to get into the team at that stage. And then with Aubameyang, Lacazette, I mean, the way I say it is, you're basically weakening yourself in 2 positions by the way that things are right now. So you're weakening your left wing because Auba is just not a proper. Let's be honest. Look at good left wingers in the league who's playing left wingers like Raheem Sterling, Mane, players like that. Those are proper wide players, that creative, that driving, that they don't. They don't need service. They provide service, basically. But by playing Auba out wide, you basically limiting yourself there. Then you've got one of the best strikers in Europe. He's just not playing as a striker. Let's just call it what it is. He's one of the best number 9s in European football. He's, he's been 20, 25 goals consistently for at least 5 years now. And you're just weakening yourself. You can't, and then he's 32 years old, 31, 32. How much life expectancy are you expecting to get out of him with him as a left winger? He's going to burn out pretty quickly. Yeah, he's not going to last long playing out wide. Let's call it what it is. So
we'll look back in years to come, won't we? And we'll go, we had one of the greatest footballers of his era, players, strikers, goal scorers, and we're playing him out wide. And at that season where we should have been building on the FA Cup win, he had 1 goal in the Premier League in his first 8 games, and that was against the team Fulham that got relegated. Yeah, it's just you could be so frustrated if you're him with he's got absolutely everything. And you would think, looking at our lineup, what's the one thing that we have got more than most other teams? We've got pace, Saka, Pepe, Aubameyang, Tierney, all these players, massive amounts of pace. That's what we should be using. We just need someone in the middle, don't we, Josh? Give us your thoughts on it. We need someone in the middle. Dare we say the O word? In his position, or someone who can drop back. We thought Ceballos would do it last season, which he did at times, but now it looks like he's scared to kick the ball, doesn't it?
I wouldn't mention the O word at all. I think the bigger problem is looking back at, I think there's some both the previous summers, the fact that we had Lacazette and Aubameyang in the same squad, one of them cannot play rotation as a centre forward. They both want to play week in, week out for a club of the size of Arsenal. We needed to sell one of them, and we needed to sell one of them over the past 3 windows for me. Irrespective of their performances, one of them needs to go for the other one to flourish and not give the manager a massive headache and thinking, for fuck's sake, I've got Lacazette and Aubameyang in my squad. I've got to get both of them in the starting 11. And it's too much of a headache. I think from our kind of armchair position, yeah, we're all dropping Lacazette and we're putting Aubameyang at centre forward. I'd put Pepe on the left and I'd continue with Willian on the right at the moment. Just so we've got, especially against Leeds, I think French made a great point about having David Luiz back in the side. Against Leeds, we've not seen, since David Luiz has come in, one of the things we've seen diminish is our midfield's ability to play the ball through. Because David Luiz has got that, they just knock it back. Oh, Luiz will just knock one, nice one over the top, and he'll play in one of the wingers. We don't need to do that because Luiz is good enough. Mustafi, he's good enough. Mustafi can play those balls as well. I think we might hate on him a lot, but he's got that ball in his locker over the top. Again, Xhaka can play those balls as well. All of those players sit in basically the back 3. And so our midfield doesn't progress the ball through midfield. It's one reason
It does say a lot about our midfield, the fact that our most creative ball player pinging the balls out from centre back is Luiz, doesn't it? Bypassing the whole of our midfield.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
Pinpoint magnificent balls.
That's the problem that I think Emery wanted to use it and used it as a crutch because he wanted to make sure that he had a very functional midfield, so removed all creativity from it. You can see that in what he did in his main summer transfer window. Ramsey and Wilshere went in his first window, Ramsey went in the second one, and he brought in more functional players into that position to kind of jam it up a bit like Liverpool's midfield. Before they brought Thiago, there's no real footballers, if you know what I mean. There's a lot of great engines in that midfield, and I think that's what Emery wanted to bring, to remove that creativity. So there's not many players playing passes, nice intricate kind of tiki-taka football through our midfield. So we're not going to be able to do that against Leeds. Leeds are too good in that kind of midfield. They'll just swarm us. So we're going to need a Luiz in just to nick the ball over the top. And that's where I think having Willian, Aubameyang and Pepe in those kind of positions would be perfect. So you can knock the ball out to Pepe, and on his left foot, he can play a ball around the back of the defence into Aubameyang. Because I think if you have inverted wingers, they can't play the ball as well. It's going to be, you have to hit it on the outside of your boot to play the same ball in behind. So that's what I'd try and get into place, is that kind of forward line. And then I wouldn't make too many changes. Maybe Joe Willock in for someone in that midfield. But again, it might be more needs must. If Thomas Partey, depends how long he's out with that thigh injury. I assume he hasn't gone on international duty, but
No, he didn't.
Whether or not he's back in time for the Leeds game, it might be a case of we just see something like a Ceballos, El Neni and a Willock. So get as many good engines in there. I'm not saying Ceballos is a good engine, just saying that's the kind of midfield that we might have to deal with. Maybe a Saka in there, because we know Arteta is a stickler for having a left footer in each.
I think Josh is trying to just avoid the main thing, which is Xhaka is going back into that midfield. He is going straight back into that midfield.
That would be the big worry. It's against Leeds, I do like Granit Xhaka as a footballer, and I think he can, if he's got enough space to do the job he wants to do, then he's great. He's one of the best players we've got at the club. But against Leeds, he's just going to be swarmed, I think. And I don't think he's quick. He's not fleet-footed enough to get, those kind of couple of little touches to make some space to then play a pass. A bit like you see from Ceballos, who, if he's caught in a little bit of trouble, can take a couple of touches and eventually, carve himself an opening to release the ball. I don't think Xhaka will have that opportunity.
I'm not convinced Arteta put him back in, to be honest. Even if Partey's not back, I feel like that he's been sort of, in a way, almost moved away from even before. I think when we played Liverpool, he was the one to get subbed off instead of El Neni, wasn't he? It was Ceballos and El Neni that were left on the pitch. So I just wonder. I hope that's not the case. Again, I do like Xhaka in situations. And I think he's got. Well, we needed him, didn't we, last season and the season before? When he wasn't there, we were losing games. But in terms of getting our kind of being able to cover big spaces and having athleticism, and I don't think he's been as progressive recently, Xhaka, as he used to be either in his passing. And one quick point, sorry, on Luiz. Again, I don't think it's something we can necessarily bash the midfielders with. Obviously we can bash him with all sorts of other stuff for being crap. But in terms of him being creative, so in his last, I've just got it here, in his last season at Chelsea, he attempted the most through balls in the league out of any player. So, that is the kind of player that he is. And I think we definitely miss that when he's not in the team.
Right, what should we do now? Because I've been looking at my notes, and in one way or another, I think we've covered all of it. The only thing we haven't covered is no games for 2 weeks. What should Mikel be working on? Josh, is it the usual shoot more?
Yeah, we should shoot more, definitely. It hasn't been more applicable than right now. I've seen the Football Manager 2021 beta is out today, so maybe it's 2 weeks solid on that for you, Mr. Arteta.
And is there a deep tactical option there for shoot more or defend more?
You'd have to pass over to someone else who plays more Football Manager than I do. I know Drew of this parish is very, very much a FM guy. Yeah,
there is. Shoot on sight is what it's called.
There we go. That's what we need. Shoot on sight.
On sight.
I mean, whilst there's no crowd, at least there's a chance for Granit Xhaka to get some balls away, and we know there won't be at least 6 lawsuits when for damages in the crowd.
Raj has done 400 hours on the last game. That's what he said on the last show. 400 hours. Wow. I've given up after Football Manager 2010 when they honestly named the stadium after me, the Sweetman Arena. Got Manchester Rovers to the Premier League. I didn't buy a single player, only free transfers and youths. That's how fucking good I was. French, have you got anything you want to add to any of that before we move on to listeners' questions?
I need to get you in there with Arteta, mate, telling these players how to score goals.
Have you ever heard me talk? I'm only here because I know how to press record. Other than that, I'm fucking useless. Anything you want to add?
No. I mean, I think, I think you cleared out. There was one quick point I saw there, which Nishan said is Willian the new Ozil, and unfortunately, it looks like Aubameyang's the new Ozil at the moment, doesn't it? So,
the curse of the 350 grand a week, isn't it?
Get the money, forget how to play football. No, I still love Aubameyang.
Get ready for the questions. Femi, I've got one that I need to answer from Twitter, from Matt L. Roberts. Can you cheer us all up by telling the listeners all about the Arsenal ladies, their season so far? Don't mention the weekend. I think he means the 1-0 loss to Man United, but they are the other best team. Who is your fave player to watch? Mine is Danielle van der Vonk, which is also my favourite player to watch. So a few stats about the Arsenal ladies. Forget about the 1-0 loss away to Man United. They're top of the league. Them and Liverpool spent a fortune on on all the best players. We played in the Continental Cup, which is the Continental Tyres, not continental as in intercontinental as in there. We played the Millwall Lionesses, Vivian Maidema. She got all 4 goals. Fantastic. Game before that, we played Spurs at home. We beat them 6-1, which isn't too good for us. I think last time we played them, we got 10 past them. And in that game, Vivian got 2, Ford got 2, and McCabe got 1. Doing absolutely amazing. Game before that, we beat Brighton 5-0 at their place. Vivian got another 2. Van der Donk got 1. Beattie got 1. And also, someone must have come. Oh, there you go. Wow, that's her name. Wabben Moy. Excellent. She got 1. And so if you look at Vivian at the moment, she has got no goals, 4, and then she got 1 for Holland as they beat Kosovo 6-0. And then she played for Holland as they beat Estonia 7-0. She got 3 against Spurs, 2 against Brighton. She got 2 as we beat West Ham 9-1 beginning of the season. So her stats this season are in the league, 6 goals in 6 games. Domestic Cup, 2 goals in 2 games. The International Cup, 5 goals in 5 games. Oh, that's not right. That's last season. National team. Bloody hell, she got 7 in 8. So there you go. Our team are absolutely amazing. Do any of you have a favourite Arsenal ladies player?
Donk. Van der Donk.
Donk, 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 donk.
Yeah, I like that. Miedemash scores
Yeah,
well. Always good.
definitely.
Yeah. We need her in there in our team. Yeah.
I asked this on the live show. There's a certain age level at which girls can play with boys, and then after that, they're not allowed to play.
Excuse me, Danny. You might want to reword that.
Mind out the gutter, Joshy boy. How dare you? So
Man.
there's got to be a point one day where the women's team, women are allowed to play in the same team as men. And I reckon if Maidemir played, she'd do better off than Lacazette at the moment.
Honestly,
Possibly.
I agree. It's not out of the question.
Yeah, why not? It's the future. Let the women play with the men. I mean, she's going to come in there. She's like a female Alan Smith. Someone's going to get a black eye and someone's going to get an elbow in the chops. She doesn't fuck around. She's going to come in there, push everyone around. She is so much better than every other striker playing in the Premier League for the last 3 or 4 years. Women's Premier League, that is. She's magnificent.
I think one thing I would like to say is if any of the listeners would like to create a ABW out of context, I think there's a perfect quote there from you, Danny. The women should be able to play with the boys.
Oh, shit. All right, Femi, help do the questions.
All right, we're at 1 hour 10, so we try and keep the questions to 10 minutes.
This isn't
Hopefully,
here would be fine.
there's quite a lot of questions, some good ones as well. So I'll start with this one. We'll go with a simple yes or no for this one, and I'll go around from Danny to Josh, then to French. Going on current, this is from Ross Morgan. Going on current form, do any of you think we will finish in the top 4? Go, Danny.
It's got to
Go,
be positive.
Josh, you're on mute.
No, sorry. I thought Danny was saying yes a couple of times in tribute to the late Sean Connery with the yes. Will we finish top 4? To be honest, I don't even think like the regular top 4 is finishing top 4 at the moment on current form. So no, we'll finish 11th with Man United.
I'll go with tenuous yes.
How about you, Fem? You asked the question. It's an important one.
No chance. Sorry. I usually say yes to everything, but no chance. I'll put it like this: if we hang around until January, maybe we've got a chance. But if we keep losing 1 in 2 games, then probably end up near Crystal Palace or something. Okay, next question from Jimmy H29. I'll try and word it as best as I can. It says, so we have some of the quickest players. You mentioned Auba, Pepe, I think it's Saka, Nelson, yet we are so slow in coming out from defense. Is this the problem, as speed is something we have but we do not use? I will go with French for that one.
Yeah, I definitely think there's something to that. It's quite frustrating when we see we can counter-attack, but it does seem like there's something. I'm not sure if it's, again, the kind of thing about being overcoached, so they're losing some of their initiative when it comes to their attacking play. Maybe it's just that we haven't put enough emphasis in terms of how we're actually attacking. I mean, we have very clear patterns that when they go perfectly right, we can sort of progress the ball quite quickly out of defense, using passing more than running, to be honest. So I do wonder if there's something about that in terms of the players maybe not being encouraged to use their speed enough and sort of just get past the player, because Saka's probably the only one out of those players you mentioned who consistently does it. Pepe at the moment is clearly quite low on confidence, doesn't seem to be able to beat a man. But last season he was top 10 in terms of completed dribbles in the league. So yeah, there's definitely something to be said for needing our players to run with the ball more. We definitely lack a bit of that. We don't, that those players are very interesting that I mentioned. We don't see them lining up, even take one of them out. We've not seen a front three of either Aubameyang, Saka, and Nelson, or Pepe and Saka, and we haven't seen that speedy front three. There's always been, maybe a Willian 30-something year old, and Lacazette, he doesn't have the speed either, and yeah, I think seeing some more pace up front would maybe make a difference in terms of how we can stretch the game, how much the opposition feel they can attack us, and yeah, something I'd like to see.
Yeah, that's good. Just to add to that, I'd love to see us going 1-0 up within the first 10 minutes and see how the game changes, because we play every game like we're 1-0 up through the whole game. So I'd love to see us 1-0 up in the first half. Josh, this is a good one for you. Chris will probably love this question, the pirate, but I'll give it to Josh. It's from formerly Nolzar. It says, should we be concerned about Leno's form? I see the ghost of Almunia haunting him.
Oh God, I don't think he's that bad at all. I think we are slightly overreacting to Leno, slightly, because he was our player of the season last year. He is a decent goalkeeper. I think he's a bit unfortunate, and I think now any time he makes a mistake, we are just blowing it out of proportion massively. And there'll be people saying, Martinez, they're kind of heralding him as the perfect goalkeeper, when in reality he wasn't. I thought he was at fault for the second goal that we conceded at Brighton. I thought his position was awful in that. We're getting to the point, at least we've got a goalkeeper in place that is stable in his positioning, is the back four can kind of work around them as well. But I think I wouldn't be too worried about his form at the moment. I think there's a lot of other things that are going on, especially the fact that we're so bad attacking. So clubs can opponents can give more players to their attack, and it means he's having to deal with more shots. But overall, I'm not worried about his form wholly. I'm more worried about our attack.
Yeah. Emmy gave a brilliant pre-assist, didn't he, for the for the one where Bellerin got bounced away by Jack Grealish. That was.
You saw it. You saw it from the moment it left his hand with that intent. You were like, I've seen that before. He's good at that. Oh no.
Yeah, his distribution on the day was really, really good. I don't know if it's. I mean, he didn't have much else to do, to be fair, and he wasn't put under any pressure, so he could just ping balls around wherever he wanted. Okay, so the next two questions are quite similar, so I will sort of lump them in. No, actually, I'll do them separate. I'll do Jonathan Porter first, and I'll ask this to Danny. He says, how do you think George Graham would have fared in the modern age of YouTube, selling Charlie Nicholas and buying Perry Groves, playing Gus Caesar in a cup final? How would you imagine the meltdown some of those decisions, Danny?
Well, a bit of context to that. Charlie Nicholas was the darling of the Scottish national team and Celtic, and he scored about 40, 50 goals in a couple of seasons back to back for Celtic, and Man United won him and Liverpool won him, and he came to Arsenal for the Champagne Charlie. He ended up being called because he wanted to come and live in London. It was the I suppose it was the Mesut Ozil of his day. Can't believe we've signed Charlie Nicholas. And when George Graham came in, his first season, he's like Charlie Nicholas's last season. Last full season, he scored 2 goals in the League Cup final against Liverpool. No one had ever beaten Liverpool when Ian Rush scored. We were the first to do that. The next season, he brought in some other players, and Charlie Nicholas faded out. And they ended up selling him to Aberdeen early on in the next season. It didn't really work out for Charlie, and then he went and bought Perry Groves. Now, people probably don't know that Perry Groves was playing for 4th Division Colchester United. We also bought Ian Allinson from there, and I think we paid £65,000 for Perry Groves. Turned out to be an almost Arsenal legend, wonderful bloke. We had him on the podcast once. We saw the amount of grief that Wenger got when we bought Holding from Bolton. The season Bolton got relegated from Division 1. League. Championship. I'm still using old money. It's like converting it all over. And when we bought Jenkinson, it's a joke of a player. How can we get a player from Charlton that spent quite a long time on loan in the National League or the Conference, whatever you want to call it? George Graham would have just come on and gone, fuck off. Like Billy Connolly. There you go. That's what he'd have said. Don't give a fuck what you say. I'm the manager. You don't like it. You can fuck off. That's what he'd have said. But the Arsenal fans would have gone, oh, it's not right. We'd have been writing our letters in to match shoot in 90 minutes, and 4-4-2 would have got an essay out from quite a few of them. Oh, you don't know how easy. Like, I was on a show with someone the other day, and no, I wasn't. I was watching the show, and they said, "What was it like with football in the 70s and 80s?" I said, "Sometimes I didn't know Arsenal's results until the Wednesday when I got to shoot match for 90 minutes. There was no way of finding out until because my mum and dad were too tight to get a telly with teletext, and I bought my first telly with teletext in 1987 when I got my first job." And until then, and then they brought out Club Call 0898 10 10 10, I think it was, which is 20p a minute. You should listen to that and find out the results. There was no way you could find out the results, let alone have a moan. We couldn't go on social media immediately and go, "That's it, burn the club down, we've drawn." So that's a long answer to a very short question. Sorry.
Yeah, no. This is it, because I mean, I think back to David Rollcastle being bummed out by George Graham, or Anders Limpar being kicked out by George Graham. You know, and
cry, aren't you?
And I just think about if that was now, the meltdown that those types of decisions would have got. And I think that links on quite neatly to the next question from Gooner Craig podcast, or Gooner Crack. Is it Crack or Craig?
Gooner Crack.
Gooner Crack podcast says, are the decisions of Saliba, Guendouzi, Torreira, Ozil, etc., making the situation more hostile for Arteta? I'm going to go with French for that one, and I'll add to that, not just those players, some of the other players that just seem to be marginalised. You know, do you think those are the types of things that are making fans get a little bit more tense, let's say?
The one I'd definitely single out from those is Ozil, mainly because Ozil FC is bigger than Arsenal FC. You know, the guy is just a massive icon, and you know, people have every right to support players rather than clubs if they want to. I do the same in basketball. So people, you know, come along and support Arsenal because Ozil introduced them, and now that he's been dropped, not just by Arteta, let's remember, by Emery and by Ljungberg even, but you know, now that he's not playing football at the moment and not even in the squad, there's a lot of, you know, like kind of fallout, I guess, all over social media. Ozil himself not helping, of course, by making regular appearances one way or another, whether it's tweeting during a game or kindly offering to pay wages. That's the main one I would single out of those. I think the others, and even the other one to a degree, you can all make explanations for. Saliba, there's obvious issues around him being able to adapt to the league with his mind state and him arriving, not having played much football even his last 2 seasons. Guendouzi, non-negotiables, and we've not particularly missed him. You know, in terms of our midfield has looked terrible, but I'm not convinced that he would be a solution to that. Torreira seems to be not a bad decision at all, in terms of he wasn't really doing what we needed him to do. He didn't seem to be adapting well. He's going and playing quite well now in Spain, and there's no obligation to buy. So if he does well, then we make more money off that. For me, the decisions, apart from the Ozil one, that really do kind of, I think, make it a bit more difficult, where he might be making it more difficult for himself, are things like continuing to play Aubameyang out on the wing. You know, given our best player, a new contract seemed fantastic, and somehow we all loved it. But on reflection, was he 31, 32, another 3 years? If he's going to be playing out on that wing and having to track back and forth, that doesn't make sense. That's not a good use of resources. Either don't re-sign him or play him where he's going to be good. And so that's where I think he is making it a bit more difficult for himself. You know, people might also say continuing to play, continue to play Willian. I think that's a more contentious one. A lot of people didn't like the signing when it was made, so people have their kind of opinions and agendas about the player before he actually plays. But on form, he's not been fantastic. You know, none of our forwards have been in the last few games. But there's certainly, I guess, a lot of questions being asked to him in terms of why he continues to play this player who, at the moment, in the last couple of games, I would argue, hasn't necessarily been a 6 out of 10. He might have been below that. But again, none of our forward players have been. So I think for me, some of the decisions are more kind of on pitch, that he's making more difficult for him, rather than some of the players that have not necessarily been playing. I think that's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. As someone mentioned earlier, the players who aren't playing are always the best players in the team. So not much you can do about that.
That's a fantastic answer. I mean, the only thing I would add to that is also bench management has been an issue. And that includes the players that we're putting on the bench as well, because we're literally giving ourselves no option. So the only thing we can do at the moment is bring on Pepe and Nketiah. That's it. You've got too many similar players on the bench. I mean, you got, for the last game, you had Luiz. What do you have? Luiz and Maitland-Niles. Then you've got Ceballos and Xhaka, and it's just similar players. Like, it's just too many of them that are too, and you give yourself no sort of wiggle room on the bench. Josh, you've been having a nice little break for a few minutes. I'll give you this one. It's from Avon Teddington. It says, imagine Arsenal Football Club played a few games this season in a modern shifting 4-4-2. What would be your first choice for the lineup? And I find that really interesting, that modern 4-4-2, because Southampton are literally playing a 4-4-2 and tearing teams apart with it, because it's not something that should just be laughed at. Just, oh, it's 4-4-2. You can't play that. But you know, if a team like Southampton can play that, why can we not make it work somehow? Go for it, Josh.
So yeah, I think from the modern 4-4-2, if you're citing someone like Southampton or Brighton who play a 4-4-2, it's a very different 4-4-2 to a Burnley, should we say? They're very much the two banks of, you know, four across the field, whereas the Southampton one is more of a 4, then a 2, then a 2 of kind of number 10s ish, then 2 strikers. Could we play that? I think we probably could. I think in terms of a lineup, Leno, we're going to go Tierney, going to stick Gabriel in. Would I go for Holding or David Luiz and Bellerin? And I'm having Bellerin in my lineup anyway. And then it's a case of having someone like Partey, Xhaka can work in there. It depends what you kind of want that to kind of do as well. If you're going to put this 4-4-2 together and break or control the ball, they're your two options. If you want to control the ball, it's Xhaka's in there. Otherwise, it's probably El Neni. And then it's Ceballos. Pepe doesn't get into this 4-4-2 because he doesn't work in those kind of positions. It's probably a Willian up there. If you look at the kind of players that play in those positions for the other clubs, you even have someone like James Ward-Prowse plays out in the kind of wider position, who's more of, you'd say, is generally like a centre mid. So you could have Ceballos. That's why I've got someone like Ceballos out there. Willian as well, because I think with the way his legs are going as well, you want someone who's got a bit of an engine about them, but doesn't have to be, you know, lightning quick like a winger kind of has to be. And then the two strikers are big man, little man, Lacazette and Aubameyang.
Can I just throw an alternate front two there? I'd want to see Pepe.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, go on then.
No, you go for it.
Literally, what I was going to say is, you know, we all know that when he's in central spaces, that's where the magic happens. You know, that's where he looks like a top quality player. And I'd just be curious to see him just on the right of Aubameyang cutting in. We've seen a bit of link up between them two. We've seen assists and goals coming from them too. So yeah, I'd like to see that tried out somehow.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I mean, Saka, and if you're playing that type of system, Saka and Willian behind Aubameyang and Pepe, I think, yeah. I mean, look at Southampton. They're playing they played Theo Walcott up front the other day. Imagine that. Theo up front. The amount of times. I think that's where Wenger probably missed the trick, didn't he? He used to play him up front as a sort of single striker. Maybe he needed a second man with him to. Imagine Giroud and Theo up front in those days. Oh, those are the days.
Arsene, didn't it? That worked for about 3 games, and then Wenger went there. Looks too good.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we'll do a yes or no on this one. It's quite a simple one to keep time short. It's from Witty Remark 99. I'll go around again. With Aubameyang now aging, all of a sudden he's aging.
31. God.
And Laca not hitting his stride. Do Arsenal now need to look at bringing in another forward, Danny?
Yes. Well, I think we're not going to play Balogun, are we? But we do need a Giroud, a Balogun, an Alan Smith, a Kevin Campbell, someone who's going to get out there and fuck shit up.
Josh?
As you say, it's kind of amazing how much signing that contract aged Aubameyang. Because beforehand he wasn't old, and now suddenly put pen and paper on that, and that's it. Sorry. Suddenly it was the moment that day. Oh, I bet we feel stupid, right? Bloody one day he signed that contract and he bloody aged. That's it.
He probably has to take all of that wages home in a wheelbarrow, and he's done it.
For fuck's sake, that's it, right? Get them all out. That's why Husfami's leaving. Fucking signed a player up who immediately aged as soon as he touched the pen.
It's happened again.
It's like the reverse Holy Grail that he's gone there with that. Right. But yeah, we need to bring in somebody who's about, I would say in terms of an age profile, someone like who's like 25, just to give you an idea of where I kind of see them sitting. Like, we've already mentioned Aubameyang, over the hill Aubameyang, we'll now call him.
Old 31. Man
old man Uber. Lacazette's 29, 30. So we need someone in there, but, you know, not too young, to block the pathway of Balogun. So I think someone's about 25.
Danny Ings? God, he'd do a job, wouldn't he?
He would. The only thing I'm worried about Danny Ings is he is injury prone, and Southampton seems like, you know, he's not playing European football at the moment, so he doesn't have to put his body through as much strain and stress. Someone like Ollie Watkins,
this is exactly what I was going to say.
You dirty boy.
As I'm watching the game, probably a lot of Arsenal fans are looking at Grealish, but yeah, I was looking at Ollie Watkins, just thinking, look at that hold-up play. Oh, imagine if David Luiz pinging him into him. You know.
Yeah, the sad thing is he's a 40, 50 million pound striker now because of what they stupidly paid for him. I mean, he was a 25 million pound striker and you gave him 32. Idiots.
It's he's in Wikipedia says he's the idol grown up as Thierry Henry.
Yeah, well, he was saying in the interview after the game that his whole family is Arsenal fans, didn't he?
Go on then, boy. Get in there.
He was saying that his uncle and his dad are not going to be happy with him on the night. But yeah, I think that ship is sailed when definitely not. Funny enough, Villa are quite a wealthy team with wealthy owners. Funny enough, like I said, I've got a couple of guys that I work with that are Villa fans, and they pointed that out to me a lot of times that they got some of the richest owners in world football. Even in the Premier League, if you check the owners list, their owners are quite well off. So if they get to a level, you could see Villa doing some things. And one thing to point out, I know a lot of people talk about Balogun, he still hasn't signed a contract. So he is literally a couple of months away from us losing him. That's something that we need to it's probably maybe not a great time to get rid of our contract negotiator when we need to sign up a good young player. But we'll see what happens with
Arteta. Will do what he's done with Saka, and I think it was Maitland-Niles to get them to sign new deals, play them for like 5 games straight, get them to sign the deal, and then drop them, and then you never see them again. See you later. Thanks, we got what we needed. 4 more years on your deal. That's a good £20 million if someone comes in.
But yeah, I think Witty Remark was just saying he was referring to needing a striker in the next 3 years. We definitely will. I think we'll see a lot of changes, you know, in the next couple of windows. Obviously, money permitting. I think we will have to. For me, I think one of our biggest regrets this summer is the amount of players that we've kept. I mean, our squad is just ridiculous. It's just like you forget that we have players like the bodyguard. Well, what's the bodyguard's name? Kolasinac. We've got so many players. Pablo Mari. We've got Cedric. I mean, these guys are not even close to getting a look in, and it's such a weird squad. Anyway, those are Did you do the Nishan question, Danny? The Ozil one. Willian is the new Ozil. Or should I do that?
I don't know. The owners of Aston Villa last April 2019, valued their Egyptian 7.5 million. So
Million?
billion. Billion. You can buy El Nenny's leg for that. No, billion. Oh dear.
Oh, I think those are the questions. To be fair.
Yeah, good. Okay, yeah. Nishan's one was is William the new Ozil? No.
I think French covered that before we went into the questions.
Yeah.
Oh, Thunder's helped us. He said the bodyguard, Kevin Costner. Yeah. Kevin Costner at wing back, inverted wing back. Right, there you go, people. So all we've got to do now is say your gentleman's nods or wave hello to somebody that you like. So while you lot are thinking of someone to say hello to, I'm going to go and do the... Oh, I've closed the bloody window for the podcast, haven't I? Because my computer's...
That's all right, Danny. I can do mine whilst you look for it.
I'm
going to do me. My big shout out is to the best dinosaur that exists in the world currently, who is back from extinction. He's not called Lazarus, and I don't think Mesut Ozil's got anything to do with it. But Gunnosaurus is back. You know, they unfortunately. The guy that used to be in the costume got made redundant / took early retirement. Took the bloody Twitter password with him, didn't he? So Gunnosaurus hasn't tweeted for ages, but he's back. So my big shout out is to Gunnosaurus because he's the best dinosaur, and I can't think of any others that have come back from extinction. So yeah, it's the feel good story of 2020. Danny?
Oh, what time to be alive. I'm going to share a screen with you lovely people here. It was Chris's idea to go and make a thank you page for all the people that keep sticking money down our pants. So we've got the ABW Executive Toilet. If you are a YouTube member, of which is all those people, Nick Wilson, Corey, Bill, J. Rob, Yemi, Michael, Mike, Julian, Carter, Folly, Sam, and the Believing Gooner, who is now the BG, or TBG, I think he's just changed his name to, or the YouTube donators, which is all them ones, or Twitch subscribers. Nishan was the last one to do that. There's no Josh on there, Josh, I see, and there's no Femi either. Quite disappointed by that. And PayPal donators, Twitch donators and PayPal donators, they know who they are. Every now and then we get the same people stuffing dollary dues down our pants. So that's what you're going to do. If you give us any money or anything, I say you get bugger all. Now you get a badly photoshopped picture of a shitty toilet stuck to a page. And what better way to say thank you to the people who give us their hard-earned money, eh, Josh? I'm too kind. Femi, anyone you want to wave hello to?
Yes, I am going to pick the person that responded to the show going live. So the tweets that we put out on Twitter. His name is at Kingy_101. That's KINGY_101. And he said he's really looking forward to the show and keep up the good work. So just a shout out to him to say thank you for your reply on Twitter.
Good French, I've just read your battery's about to die. So do you want to quickly say hello to anyone just in case you disappear?
I'm drawing a blank. After that weekend, there's no one particularly I feel fond of. But I'll say hello to my mistress. She's an Arsenal fan. She'll be watching. You're right, Bruce.
Hey, lovely and jubbly. Right, the next show we have coming up is going to be, hopefully we're going to do like an ABW special where we just all get together, talk fantasy football. John and Chris can talk about shaving their balls with the lovely people at Manscaped who are going to send us loads of stuff. I'm going to use it for shaving my head because it's getting a little bit long. And we're also doing a special. It's going to be me, Chris, and Jeff Arsenal, Sophie, Amanda, and the legend that is Kevin Campbell. I'm still not over George Graham letting him go and bringing in fucking John Hartson. What were you thinking, you Scottish twat? And so that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. It's an international break, so I might go and do some live Twitch shows of me sitting here eating crisps and shouting at my cats. Other than that, has anyone got any interesting plans for the weekend or the international break? Josh, are you going to be out running around up the north with on your bike with your new special socks and a hat?
Potentially. Maybe.
Ooh.
I don't know.
Taking arty photos of old bridges.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the only thing you can do at the moment. That or sneeze over the old people.
Oh, bless them. They don't know they're born. Femi, any plans for the international break?
No, I'm not watching any football. I've had enough of football.
Good. We can not watch it together. And French, any plans for the international break that you can share with the wonderful viewing public?
Yeah, I'm getting into non-football stuff. I'm like releasing some music and that sort of good stuff. So I'm
Releasing?
Yeah, putting out some music. Yeah, so hopefully like these 2 weeks will give me a nice kind of chance to reset. And
what sort of music do you do?
Like rap, hip hop, French, UK rap, kind of mix up. Yeah,
well, let people know. Tell them where they can find your stuff.
If you're looking on Spotify, JASI, you find me. All my music's on there.
Oh, lovely. Well, when do you tweet that you're doing it?
I will tweet you, Danny. I usually don't do it from this like football account I use to troll opposition fans, but for this specifically, I'll let everyone know. So yeah, if you follow me on French Gooner 23, I'll tweet something from there.
Oh, there you go. If you include the podcast Twitter in that, I should give that a retweet, and people can go and listen to your music.
Appreciate it, man.
Yes. Lovely. Right, thank you very much, gentlemen. You have all been, well, two of you have been good, and the other one has been Josh. Don't want to say
Thanks.
that.
See, look, there you go. Twitch subscriber. I've got the emojis and shit. Deal with it. I'm a Twitch subscriber.
Oh, well,
with my Amazon Prime.
I'd like to say thank you very much to Josh for the Amazon Prime. That's very kind of you, Josh. I wonder why you've been so devious.
It's because I was trying to check it. All the shitty like third-party authentication that you need to get into Twitch desktop. Prove it. I still can't find where I sign up to it, but it's apparently I'm on a 2-month streak as well.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, apparently.
You're no longer a freelance scumbag.
I still am. I'm still using my free money that I get from Jeff Bezos to give myself money. So yeah, still freeloader.
Lovely. Right, I'm going to shut up and end this because it's going on too long. Thank you very much, everybody. We have been a Bergkamp Wonderland. I'm still not wearing any pants, and we will see you in a week or so. I can't wait. It's just like Christmas. Goodbye.